Hello.
Hey.
Howdy.
Welcome to a very special episode of Hugo Girl. I'm Lori.
I'm Haley.
I'm Amy.
I'm Anne Michelle.
Yay! And as you can hear, with us today, we have a special guest, a writer, lawyer, newly minted grandma.
Okay, accolades.
Yes. Anne Michelle Harris. For the uninitiated, Anne Michelle is a longtime friend of the show. She joined us in May of 2023 for our Halfway to Life Day Star Wars cookbook special. And you might have met her at Worldcon last year in Glasgow if you were there. She's joining us today for a very exciting reason, which is that her debut novel, North, just came out on January the 6th. Woo!
Yay.
So we're going to talk about the book. We're going to talk about being a writer, being a new writer.
Okay.
Yeah. So why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So I am a lawyer by day and a writer by night.
Just exactly like a superhero.
You know? Exactly. As of the last 3.5 years or so, I've been a writer.
How many years as a lawyer?
I've been...
How many years is a lawyer?
A lady never tells.
I kind of
How dare you?
that, right?
Okay.
Will
moving
it
on.
freak people out if I say 32? Okay.
My lawyer
12.
was for 6 of those years.
I've been a lawyer for 5 years.
Yeah, so I love reading, and I decided I want to try writing, so I joined some amazing writing groups. So I'm in Sisters in Crime, Atlanta Writers Club, and Georgia Romance Writers. And yeah, that's me. And I write short stories, and I now have a novel.
Yeah. You sure do. And I have a copy of the novel. Ooh, before I forget, as you might see, there is a paperback copy of your novel, North by Anne Michelle Harris, on the table with a pen on top of it, because I would love it if you would sign my copy.
So before you joined those writers groups, what writing had you done before you joined those groups? Like any? Or
College, maybe?
Like you scribbled down some ideas and never went forward with them? Or like what's our level before we joined the group?
That's such a great question. So...
I'm a professional interviewer.
So I was an English major in college. So
Oh, that makes 4 of us.
yeah. So
Truly the best major.
Listen, kids, you can do a lot with your degree.
multifunctional degree. So yeah, so I did a lot of writing in college. I did writing in high school, like in terms of creative writing.
Yeah.
Nothing ever really went anywhere with that. It's just stuff for school. And then right before the pandemic started, like 2019, I started reading. Don't mock me. I started reading a lot. I was going through.
This is a safe space, Anne Michelle.
Thank you. I was going through a stressful time, and I started reading a lot of fan fiction of shows that I loved. It was just like a great de-stressor, and it was like so helpful for me to just read fun. Like
I have so many follow-up questions.
I mean, serious. So like, love Naruto. I read a lot of Naruto fan fiction. It was awesome.
A lot of what?
Naruto, the anime.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
like, if it's anime or video games, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That checks
And
out.
so I just thought, you know what? I would like to, it's like when you get all the reviews on Travelocity or TripAdvisor and you're like, I should write a review. So I was like, I should write something. So I wrote something. And that was like the first time I wrote something that I sent to strangers.
Ooh. So was it the first thing you started writing was fanfic? Oh, I love it.
The very first thing I wrote was.
I cannot begin to tell you how inspirational this is because I think there's a lot of us out there that are like, I could write. I want to write. I don't know why I don't write. And then we get to be 40-something. And we just think it's too late or something like that. So this is...
We've all only been lawyers for 5 years.
I'm only 25.
Yeah, it's never too late. That's one of the great things I learned from my writing community is there are a lot of people who didn't even start writing until they were retired.
Oh, I love this
from their
story.
primary careers. So I love that. You can just do it.
I always thought, too, with writing, I remember being in my early 20s and I was more into poetry and creative writing. But like I hadn't been in love, I hadn't experienced, big life things.
Yeah.
You know more when you're older.
Yeah.
So I think
Yes.
like you've experienced the wide range of life events. And
Oh,
that's
100%.
super helpful.
A lot of my life is very much reflected in my stories. So
As it should
Some of my stuff that I look back, like what I tried to write when I was like in my 20s, is also fraught. It's either the best or the worst, but I had no perspective. Right?
yeah, well, I mean, and I think that fits in some genres.
Fair.
If you're writing a YA romantasy, that'll be actually perfect.
So, Anne Michelle, that leads me to a question, a great segue to a question I had written, which is obviously any resemblance to real people is entirely coincidental, but are any of your characters inspired by anyone in your life?
There's one named Ori Nanderson.
There's not.
Yeah, I tried not to. None of the characters are directly actual people. So that for sure is a true disclaimer. But there are definitely elements of me in some of the characters, like things I've actually experienced are in the book. And the book is like a fantasy, but it's based on actual real things that happened in like college and high school and at my job. So yeah. So yes, pieces, but not like an entire human being.
Is there a legal nonprofit in the book?
I plead the fifth.
This seems like a good time for a plot summary.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to do a plot summary on the fly, or I saved the one from the Amazon blurb?
Oh, yeah.
But if you want
Let's use the stay on brand.
Who wrote the one for the Amazon book?
I wrote it myself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So it is in your own words.
It is in my
Well, would you like to read it?
Sure.
Then it's in your own voice too.
Okay. All right.
There it is right there.
Okay, here we go. So, a boy who can heal from any injury is destined for a lot of suffering. Kai is orphaned and illegally trapped in slavery. As someone who's lost everything, nothing is as annoying as the spoiled rich girl who walks into his path, the path of his crossbow when he's trying to hunt. A girl with a murdered father and an absent mother has a lot to deal with, especially when Kara is a princess whose uncle wants to trap her in a political marriage. But Kara is a fierce warrior, determined to prove her worth as she helps her kingdom defend continuing attacks from the north. This is really long.
Welcome to our world. We're trying to synopsize.
Oh, goodness. Kai's sharp weapon skills and rapid healing power make him just the fighter Kara needs. In the beautiful South Kingdom, Kai's chance encounter with the royal children leads to a very different kind of fairy tale. Life at the palace means danger, prejudice, and political intrigue. But when Kai suddenly disappears, will Kara risk everything to save Kai and her kingdom from the Queen of the North?
Yes.
Is this what is this young adult? Like what are we talking
Yes,
here? Okay.
it is a YA, but it's what they call a crossover because there is a time skip, and they are adults by the end of the story. So.
Yeah.
Was North rattling around in your head for a while? Was it something gestating in the back of your mind?
I mean, it started rattling around truthfully from when I started writing the fan fiction. There's a pair of people in Naruto that I particularly like, and that was sort of like my first inspiration. And then I had read The Snow Queen, and there's a 2002 Bridget Fonda version of The Snow Queen, which I watched.
There is?
It's so fun. I highly recommend it. Yeah, and that was rattling around in my brain, and I was like, and one of my favorite tropes is the girl rescues the boy instead of vice versa. And this is one of the few fairy tales that has that in it. It's it's a fairy tale like from Hans Christian Andersen. So I love that even from 2 centuries ago, someone thought about the girl being the hero.
Yeah. Wait, this book was made based on a specific fairy tale?
Yes.
Which one did I already?
The Snow Queen. Sorry, The Snow Queen. I don't think I said that.
No, you did, and it just went.
Also, the problem is my first thought is The Snow Queen by Joan Vinge.
Right.
When you said Snow Queen, I was like, yeah. The book.
And I did not. I was not familiar with that fairy tale until we read the Snow Queen
I
novel.
think I just completely forgot that it was an actual.
Yeah. It's a
wasn't-
fairy tale retelling.
Yeah, it wasn't a popular American fairy tale, I don't think.
Yeah, there was no Disney movie.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
So then how could I
have
know?
nice things?
Frozen is vaguely
Oh, okay.
off the vibe of it, but it is not a retelling of it. Yeah.
I recently told a friend of mine who has 2 kids that I had never seen Frozen, and she's like, her face. She's like,
She's like, oh, I'm so happy for you.
how could you imagine a world without seeing Frozen? I was like, I know the song and there's a snowman, but she was just aghast.
have seen Frozen one time, an appropriate amount of times.
I've seen it a lot.
I've seen it once, but I have 2 girls, and so you would hear them singing it forever.
I mean, I think I watched it twice on my own, but then my nieces were really into it for a while.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
watched it.
yep, good stuff.
I liked it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's cute. Yeah, it's like you said, to the point of the girl being the hero.
You're right.
I like that the love story in that is the sisters.
right. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a nice twist.
So how did you add writing to your already busy life of lawyering and momming and all the other things you do?
That is a good question, Lori. I'm really fascinated by the answer.
Yeah, I actually did a workshop on this for Georgia romance writers in October about how to write when you have a day job. So definitely the pandemic helped because then I didn't have to commute to work. So I was stunned by how much of my life involved just getting to my office, like just not just the driving, but the getting dressed and the packing your lunch and all that. So I got back like I don't know, 4 hours of my life, I think, when I didn't have to go to the office. So that was a perfect time for me to really dive into writing. I was writing before that on the weekends. But once I didn't have to go to work, I could write every morning and every evening. It's awesome. So.
I remember this time in 2020 where I was like, yeah, I just am rolling out of bed at 8:49 and
And you're still on time for work.
I did not get 4 hours.
Well,
of my
that's
life
what I
back because you were
mean.
in the
Like,
bed.
like I was spending all that time in the bed or doom scrolling, and Michelle's like, yeah, I just started writing during my commute time, and I banged out a novel, and I was like, pardon?
You mean I could have done something constructive with that time? I object.
Listen, rest is
Sleep is important. Absolutely. And I'm the kind of person where I really hate getting up when it's like a go to the office day. But if it's like I'm on the beach in Jamaica at 6 a.m., I'm awake.
Yeah.
I am ready to go. So if you have something fun to do, it can be motivating.
Yeah, that's true.
So you would say writing is fun?
It is fun currently, but it has its moments when it's not fun.
What parts of being a published author are you not enjoying currently?
Oh, the marketing.
Oh,
I have lots of questions about that.
I have
100%.
questions about it.
I'll wait till we get to it in your outline.
Marketing is not a field for introverts. So
Well, we've come to it naturally, so I think now's the time.
I mean, are you up on Book Talk? Like, what are we talking here? Like, what
Yeah.
Are your people with your publishing telling you what to do? Do you have to make it up on your own? Which bits are working, which aren't? I have so many questions.
Yeah. So my publisher did give me a kind of like worksheet kind of thing of like what you should be doing and ideas for how to do it.
They gave you homework.
They gave me homework roadmap kind of thing. But I'm with a small press, and when you're with a small press, you are on your own mostly for your publicity.
Did we say which press it is?
It's with Running Wild Press. Okay. So, but my sister, my baby sister, Nikki, is also an author. And when I first was interested in writing, she said, you've got to go get on social media and so meet people. So I did start doing that, even though it wasn't my instinct, and I met people. So that was a great way to connect with people. And the book is a YA, so I have to be on TikTok and Instagram.
That's where all the Y's A are.
Yes,
YAs.
exactly. If you're on Facebook doing a YA, then you are not going to sell any books.
which will be interesting to see in a week.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts, which is not that I won't get into here. But
Yes.
if you go into, so I was recently driving home from Florida, and I stopped at a Books A Million because the traffic was so bad. I was like, those still exist. And every bookstore these days has a book talk section.
Yeah.
Like, the effect of TikTok on publishing is like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So yeah, being on TikTok, I imagine.
Oh yeah, it's a thing, and I'm not really on there, but mercifully, I have Gen Z children.
Oh,
so
helpful.
yes. So I was like, here's how you repay mom for the college tuition.
Remember that food I gave you and all the love?
The life.
Mhm, exactly right. So my oldest daughter is an influencer. That is her day job, and
Wow.
my middle daughter is also now a book talker. So that works.
You have a built-in marketing team.
I was like, yeah, go forth. Just do the thing.
Do you consider this to be as part of your press junket?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
This will be disseminated to tens of people.
I'm
Maybe
here for
scores.
it. I will be reposting all over. So, yeah.
Get that influencer to repost.
Yeah. Well, and when if you're active on like social media, I'm on Threads a lot since I mostly left Twitter, but and Instagram, people will reach out to you, which is fun. So they'll say, "Oh, I have a book blog. Do you want to be on it?" And I'm like, "Oh, yes."
That sounds like it's a little like cross-pollinational, kind of like the podcast, sci-fi podcast world. Like we're always like, you want to be on my podcast? And
yeah, no, I love that. I love that. There's like, I think before I started being a writer, I thought it was this very gatekeeping kind of environment, and it's been such the opposite. Everyone is so welcoming. They're like, "Oh my gosh, let me help you. I know a person," So
That's wonderful. That's very heartwarming.
is the same true? So it seems I just have heard like especially on TikTok, like if one person pans the book, that's like it. Like you're pretty much sunk or something like that. I guess maybe it's not as bad as all that though.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. But my
Fingers crossed, you never will.
Well, I mean, the good thing is like I'm not. I want this book to be a blessing to other people, but I am not like paying my mortgage with this book. Yeah. So I'm trying to have fun with this.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
not
Yeah.
lose my mind over it. But it is really hard to not stress about stuff like that. And the good thing, one of the things that encourages me when I have like writer friends who are like, "Oh, I got this 1-star review," and they're whatever. I always think, And you guys are part of my inspiration about this, which is that there are Hugo-winning books that get 1-star reviews.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
Yes.
So I'm like,
Yes.
so really, if you get a 1-star review, you're an amazing company. So.
Yeah, not everything is for everyone.
No.
And that's okay.
It never occurred to me that maybe by reading bad reviews of famous popular books, we were doing some kind of service.
Yeah.
And not just being sassy.
Someone can hate your book and you can win a Hugo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about I wanted you to talk a little bit about the process that you went through with pitching your books. I remember you were doing a lot of traveling and going to conferences, and you talked about having pitch meetings and stuff. So can you speak a little bit to that? Because I didn't know anything about any of that. I have had no idea how this sausage gets made. So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. So it was completely new to me too. And it's weird being after you get to be senior in your day job career, starting over as an absolute baby. So you, in order to get published, unless you're self-publishing, which is a completely viable option, you have to get someone to want to publish your book. So the usual way to do that is to pitch either to an agent or directly to a small press. Most the big 4 publishing houses, you have to have an agent to get to them. Oh, wow. So you're pitching to an agent in order to get to them if you want to be published by like Random House. But someone once, again, on social media posted and said it's actually easier to get picked up by a publisher than it is to get picked up by an agent. And I was like, oh, there's an idea. So I started pitching directly to publishers, small presses, and there's hundreds of them. And you can do it at a conference. They will have editors there that you meet with. It's like speed dating. So you meet with them for like literally 5 minutes.
Conferences like Book Expo or like?
Like writing conferences. So like Atlanta Writers Club, which if you're in Metro Atlanta is a great organization to join. They do a conference twice a year and they bring in tons of editors and agents. So there'll be like 25 editors and agents and you sign up for slots and you just speed date them. You're like, hi, my name is Anne Michelle. My story is this, crazy. Blah, blah, blah.
This sounds like on-campus interviews in law school.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Did you practice your pitch? Like, did you have like a 2-minute pitch and you were like ready to go?
100%.
Oh,
yeah. My first conference I did was during the pandemic. It was Emerald City Writers Conference. They're in Seattle, but it was pandemic, so you could go virtually. And they were fantastic. They had a pitch workshop the night before for all the new authors. And they taught us, like, there's actually elements of the pitch. Like you introduce yourself, you make small talk, you do a small summary of your book, and then you give comps to your book. At the end, you say, and so, can I send you the manuscript? And so they made us practice over and over again. Oof. And that is how I learned to pitch. Fortunately,
this lady is a trial lawyer.
I was going to say, fortunately, I'm a trial lawyer by day, so I'm like,
story.
The talking part, I think I feel comfortable with. So
I'm thinking back to like, I had an internship at a small press in Athens when I was an undergrad, and I'm just remembering back to like getting query pitches from authors when I worked there and how different that sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Like we get the first and last chapters and we'd get their little cover letter, like, here's what my book is about. And if you weren't gripped in the first like 2 seconds, I mean, which is kind of similar, really.
Yeah.
But
yeah, which is why I like pitching and I recommend it to people because I also did the querying trenches. I'm still in the querying trenches. I have a crime novel that I'm querying.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but for that reason, which is that for querying, you only get to send usually like the first chapter or the first 5 pages, sometimes only the first page. And
so that still exists too.
Oh, 100%. Okay. And so especially if you're pitching to an agent. So, and I have a friend whose child did that work. And I was like, oh, it's so ironic that someone I knew as a baby is reading The Slush Pile, which I will be in.
That's what I was doing. I was reading The Slush Pile. And like, I think there was maybe one that I sent to the editor I was working for out of that thing. I mean, it is bonkers.
Yeah, I think the slush pile, it's hard to get out of. So I learned pretty quickly that you have a better shot if you pitch to someone in person.
Imagine.
Because if they meet you and they connect with you, I had a very high full manuscript request rate from pitching.
Yeah, I meant because if you're reading a book, I mean, if a book can have a lot of potential, but if you're not connected to the person, you're not going to be very motivated to help them with it. So if you're reading it and you don't know them, you can toss it much easier than if you've met someone and you go, no, I like this person. I want to help them. I want to do this.
I want to at least look at a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes they'll say, just send me the first 3 chapters. And then you get the ping and they're like, send me the whole thing. And it's like very exciting.
How much editing did your book go through after you got? publisher.
And how do you get an editor? That was my question
Yeah,
too. Does
yeah.
the publisher give you an editor? How
Yes,
does that work?
my publisher had they have their own editor.
How do I become
team.
an editor?
Oh, it's a market. They need people who can proofread.
Really?
So yeah, and edit. You need to. This book went through. Before I got it out to a publisher, I had a developmental editor. I paid a developmental editor to check it for me, and then the publisher did a change of stuff. They made me cut things and stuff like that.
Was
And
that hard?
Oh yes, so hard, so hard. One of my favorite scenes is cut, and she's like, "This is breaking up the pacing of this scene because he has like a flashback. He's in the middle of a scene and he has a flashback, and she's like, no, cut it. So I had to do the kill your darlings. So,
I feel like books should have deleted scenes like movies do.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
At the end, there could be like some deleted.
You need a website with deleted scenes.
yeah, that's one of the marketing things you're supposed to do. So I did. I saved. My sister taught me that. She's like, never throw
marketer.
anything away. So I have it. So there's a scene that reflects when Lori did a read of some of this content, and she was like, oh, I see where some of this is coming from in the day job. And there was one that was particularly day jobby. And that got cut. But you can see it when I put it up on my extra pages.
Day jobby.
Ooh, that's so fun. George R. R. Martin does that.
Oh.
He puts up little.
He has an editor that makes him cut things?
George R. R. Martin sometimes puts little short stories,
I see.
little ancillary stories on his website.
That's awesome.
And not that. Listen, I'm not.
I can think of two verbose white male authors that could probably use better.
The man has been yelled at enough about not finishing Game of Thrones, so I won't go down that road. But anyway, that's just what I thought of when I was like, oh, there is like a model for deleted scenes. I
Yeah,
have
you can
seen
use
that
them,
before.
turn them into a short story.
Yeah.
do other stuff with it. So
I love the idea of having it on your website, though. Here's a little treat.
Because if people are seeking out fanfic, if they just want to live in the world. Like,
Yeah.
We talk about that with Star Wars a lot. Like, you just kind of want to be in the world.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. Let's see. So we talked about the most challenging part of the process. What's been your favorite part of the process?
Oh, my favorite part is definitely the writing, like creating, like just having.
That's really good.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, because sometimes you meet people where they put out so many books, it really is kind of like work.
Well, I guess if you turn it into your primary job, you know, it can start to
gotta pay the bills
feel like a
with it.
slog.
Yeah. But I love like just imagining things, and I love having a moment in just real life, like at the supermarket or at the day job.
You're like,
or
oh,
out.
I'm taking note of this.
Exactly. Pull out your iPhone, put it in your notes, and then going home and then turning that into something like fun is like very magical. I love that. I love just like imagination. I'm nerdy, so I like imagination.
Can you imagination on demand? Like I can imagine like having to come out with a novel, but if you're not feeling particularly inspired, or if you're not like you have to write it, but you're not like, can you do it without feeling it?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
no, I mean, I try to make myself feel it. So if I have to, like, sometimes there'll be like a call for short stories and I want to submit, but it's like a deadline and I'm like, I don't know what to write. So that's when you need to like just go for a walk or read something from a different genre or just do something to get a little bit of inspiration. And yeah, and then that usually some sort of change of scenery will jog me a little bit.
Do you write every day?
I try to do some kind of writing every day, but I'm not necessarily like cranking out a novel every day. So I might be like writing like blurbs or working on a synopsis or, doing some marketing adjacent stuff.
It's like
that.
exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I do
Another thing I don't do.
I know. One of my things on the talk about how to make time is to like you can actually dictate like voice text your writing when you're walking on the treadmill.
Oh yeah.
You can listen. It's important to listen to your manuscript because that's how you catch typos. So you can do that when you're walking. But yeah, I try to just get a little bit of have a routine, because if you don't have a routine, then you're gonna, even if you don't write your novel every day, you should write something, because I think if you don't have a routine, you're gonna give up. So yeah,
I have a question for writers. I love to write characters. I love to write ideas, but to me, plot seems insurmountable. How do you
Connect the dots.
Yeah, like how do you come up something that, because there's lots of things people read that don't necessarily have to have a plot, but all the good ones do. And then there's some books that are airplane books that are only plot with no characters and no beautiful turns of phrase. So like, how do you navigate the world of making a plot?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So I actually had to learn that, because I was that person where I really loved characters. I love scene. I love sensory detail. So my first pass at North, when my sister read it, she's like, "Oh, we need a story though."
That makes me feel so good.
She's like, "I love these words."
It's all possible.
Although I know what you mean about sensory details because I started reading the copy last night that you sent me. Amazon, thank you. And I'm already like, how do I make rosemary bread?
Oh yeah.
I can't stop thinking about it.
Your brain will catch on something and
Yeah,
you're like, and I'm off.
But that's the kind of thing that I like in books, and I think people appreciate those details that make it real. And that seems like for some people it's the easy part, but it's like, how do you make the world make sense and propel? And we've talked about this in the podcast before. A lot of times people use a murder mystery because that's an easy like whodunit. You can play in the world, but
Yeah, so it turns out I learned this after I had a full complete draft of this novel. I learned a very important thing that all writers already know, which is that there is a roadmap, and it's in a book called Save the Cat.
I have this book in my Amazon cart it's been there for about 10 years.
It is the best
save the
book.
cat, Amy.
If you're trying to write genre fiction, it's actually was originally a book for writing scripts for like movies and stuff. But there's a lot of versions of it, like Save the Cat writes a novel, Save the Cat writes a romance novel, like all sorts of stuff. But it's very key, and it helps you walk through the story beats that you need to keep pacing, because pacing is what keeps people turning the pages.
Yeah, like those details make it seem real, but if you plop those details into something that doesn't seem like what am I trying to say? Like something you don't relate to, then it won't work either, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to have both.
Like you could be compelled, I think.
Like you
There
have
are
too
a
much
lot
pizza,
of-
like what's his toast?
a Yiddish policeman's union, I think. There are a lot of books where I think that the writing is good, but I'm not invested. You know, like I like
that's
it.
what I was looking for.
I'm not reading it and going, this is so boring, or the writing is bad, but I put it down and I don't think to myself, I need to pick that up and find out what happens next.
Yep.
So for me, that's important that I'm like hankering for the next thing or for the answer to a question. I need to know, are they going to save the cat? I need to know who done it.
Right,
Which is
right.
probably why I love a good murder mystery.
Yeah.
And if you think about like Dan Brown novels, every single end of a chapter is a rising action. And then, but that keeps you reading.
Yeah,
and it's
totally
a trick.
does.
Yep.
And even though I realize it when I'm reading, I'm like, but I got to know what happened to the cat.
Yeah. In Save the Cat, they use a lot of just like Star Wars. They use a lot of movies that we already know we love and show you here's where these beats are landing in
that's cool.
movie. So,
Well, I guess
I don't know if I want to know how I'm being manipulated.
no, it is very weird. That's why I was like, I hate to tell you, but there is a thing. But if you're writing like literary fiction or other things, you don't have to follow the beats
Exactly.
necessarily.
Yeah, but you still need something to help propel
to move
people
it.
along.
It's still just good to have it, and like North doesn't exactly follow Save the Cat beats, but it was a good reminder for me that I did need to keep the
I read
pacing.
something like this about E. Cummings one time where he's like, you have to learn how to write a short story and harness the English language before you can write the kind of freeform poetry he does.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
well, like a lot of things, we're understanding some rules and
fundamentals,
some basics before you break them.
Yeah.
But I love this. I don't mind knowing that I'm being manipulated because I think, though, like from where I'm sitting as a reader, a lot of times I'm just like, how have they done this? Like I just look at a book as like the product of casting some spells or something.
Yeah, it is the same thing.
That, just like, I mean, obviously, of course, there's lots of talent and effort and learning that goes into it, but I like the idea that there is a way to learn how to do this. Like that.
Yeah.
And I hope that doesn't sound like it's undercutting anyone's gift for writing.
No, I think that's really important to know because I think a lot of the time people get stymied by this because they're like, well,
for years.
I can do this, but I can't, but I don't. If I don't already know how to do this, then I can't be a writer or something like, or like this perception that writers just know how to do everything that they do. And I think there's a lot of work and effort and like laudable effort that goes into learning how to do this. And
like
I don't
the
think
discipline of taking your commute time and turning it into a
I don't think it
novel
undercuts
when the rest of us were lying in bed looking at our phones.
I don't think it undercuts it at all because you can also learn all this stuff and still not be able to turn out a story that anybody wants to read.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I've learned about art from a variety of people I know who are artists is that all art requires work. Like it always feels like you just pull a pen out and you just draw this amazing picture. But I remember my daughter was taking an art class in high school and it was like they spent a whole day doing triangles over and over again. Or like my other daughter that did acting and just like what that was like to just spend a whole day like making your voice sound a certain way, like all day just volume.
This is really important for especially I think gifted kid type people who are probably better at churning out a little story than their friends were, right? But the minute they wanted to do it do more and it was a little bit hard, they were like, oh, well, I'm terrible at this. I can't do it.
Exactly.
I think it's really important to hear that.
Yeah,
like,
you've got to learn. You got to learn.
You are
practice.
two things can be true. You can be really good at a thing.
Yeah.
You also need to work a little harder on.
Exactly. Like Michael Jordan did go to basketball practice.
Right.
Yeah, and you can have a community of people that are hard workers that are good at it, and then you can still have room for like the genius that is Stephen King, who could somehow write 1 million books, or somehow Daniel Steele writes hundreds of books.
Stephen King could have benefited from a pacing class.
No, that's true. That's true.
But whatever he did, it worked for
It did work.
Well, and I feel like at a certain point you can write anything, and we'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I just want your book. I don't care."
Yeah.
Yes.
But when you're new, you got to get the pacing right. So.
About the pacing thing. So the past like year or two, I've read the Thursday Murder Club. There are 4 of those. They're very cute. They're cozy mysteries about people in a retirement home in Britain solving murders.
Okay, well, I already want to read these.
So like the funny thing about it is, and my grandmother recently moved to an active senior community, and so I was like, oh, I have to send you these books as soon as you get there. I expect you to start solving murders. And the funny thing we talked about is that some of the chapters are like 3 pages, and
Oh, wow.
my dog is going nuts. I wonder if it's picking up. I mean, there's a killer out
They
there.
know that there's a cat lady in here.
No,
There's always a cat lady.
That's true. This house, we're outnumbered by cat ladies right now, actually. But yeah, some of the chapters are so short, and my grandma was like, I just feel like they think I'm not smart enough or something, or they're tricking me. And I was like, I like that. I like staying up. It's like 3 a.m, and I'm like, well, just read one more chapter. It's only 3
That's
pages.
how they get you.
It is how they get me, but I really like that. I'm like, trick me into a good time. It's fine.
Yeah.
You should watch A Man on the Inside with your grandma. I watched it with my mom, and we had a great time. It's solving crime in a retirement community. It's great.
Marinelle always has the hottest takes.
She had hot takes on Lady Astronaut.
But she loves them. She loved the Thursday Murder Club, and she loves the Lady Astronaut books. So her
But not Moby
spicy
Dick.
takes are no. Yes, she has.
He
no
also
takes
has
about-
short chapters.
Talk about pacing problems.
She has no takes about Moby Dick.
That's true.
I think if she has engaged enough to complain about something, that means she probably liked it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true.
It's a compliment.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you get to pick the cover. How does that process work?
I had that question
Okay. Yeah. So the publisher had a cover artist, and I made a Pinterest of like my vision
Oh, that's cool.
of what, and I had been kind of doing it while I had been writing, even before I had.
I bet it's fun.
publisher. Yeah, it is actually super fun to dream, and helps you actually with the descriptions when you have some visuals.
yeah, I bet.
So
Pinterest board should go on your website too.
Oh, that'd be fun. I want to see what.
good idea.
I
That's
always
a fun extra.
one thing I always tell the girls, my podcast co-hosts.
Oh, I had no idea you were
girlfriends?
talking about us.
That's true.
We're the girls. We're the girls.
These broads? No. Sorry, guys. I like, because like so many of these science fiction books we read and fantasy, I'm sure you're familiar with, like it's hard to picture things. And so I'll Google book title plus fan art.
Yeah.
You know the thing I just thought of?
Love fan art.
Madeline Ashton in Death Becomes Her looking in the mirror after she takes the serum and going, I'm a girl. Sorry. Okay. Amy is having a breakdown.
Sorry, Pinterest board, and then they sent me some ideas, some mock-ups of it, and I gave my feedback, and then they sent me more, and I definitely had a vision of what I wanted it to be like, and then we eventually sort of met in the middle, I think.
I'm really interested in your cover in particular because there's nothing on the cover that would indicate that it's some sort that it's a romance to me. To me, like 'cause,
Yeah.
you know, generally those will have
Yes.
a dude and a woman doing
Yes. Yeah.
whatever it is
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested that that's not the direction you guys went. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I definitely got feedback because I had a version that had a person's face on it, had Kara's face on it, and that was, you know, she's Black, and it was important for me to have that visual. And then I had more neutral covers, and we were really back and forth about it, about trying to get it exactly right. And and then someone, well, I think it was one of my kids, was like, you know, if you have a neutral cover, it will feel, and not neutral in terms with like the people, but neutral in terms of like
Genre.
like you said, genre, right? It'll
is good.
make people. It might make it more accessible to more types of readers. So
That's why it's interesting to me because I definitely think romance is especially romance is a genre that people cut off even wanting to know what the book is once they cotton on to the fact that it might be a romance because it has
so funny and it is so true. And I have loved romance for a long time. I'm in Georgia Romance Writers, and the thing about romance, I don't know if you all know this, but you have a contract where you get a happy ending in a romance.
Oh,
so it is a requirement that you have a happy ever after or happily for now.
Spoilers.
HFA. Yeah. I mean, and in fairness, that can mean a lot of things. It doesn't mean people still die. Your version of whatever that is. So I've always been drawn. Yeah, I've always been drawn to romance for that because my day job is very stressful and very sad.
So happy endings are good.
Yeah, exactly. So I really don't like to read a lot of trauma-based books, even though I do and I appreciate them. So yeah, but I'm in some critique groups, and that totally happened to me. The thing you described, where I would in one of my crime writers group, I sent my chapters in, and then there's like a moment between the two people, and nothing happens, but it's just like a little bit of
romance.
They're looking at each other, and then I immediately get a comment in the margins like, "Is this a romance?"
No.
Or this is starting to sound like a romance.
I can't read this.
Exactly. It's just like, that's so funny that it's like, oh, is this a kissing book?
Yeah.
Thank you, Princess Bride. Okay. Grandpa, are you trying to trick me?
It's a strange criticism that I've seen before in one of the science fiction groups I was in on Facebook, where someone was like, romance, it makes me throw a book across the room. And I'm like, it's part of life though. Like most people, not everyone, but most people in life will do a little kissing. I just don't understand why it's so alienating. And I mean, maybe this was a good choice with your cover, where I think it clearly communicates that it is a fantasy.
Yes,
but
fantasy first, adventure first.
Romance in it, but there's also sword fighting and political intrigue and like murders and stuff. So it's
really more about like the found family element
sure
to me than about the romance is important, but that is not. You could take the romance out and you'd still have
interesting. So you didn't pitch it as a romance?
I pitched it,
or I guess I should say, did you pitch it as a romance?
I pitched
that was a leading question
with all sorts of subcategories. So like YA, fantasy, fairy tale retelling, romance.
That's interesting.
As soon as you say romance, then it locks you into certain things, and those things are present. So I felt okay saying that too.
Huh. It's surprising that is something that, if it's present in a book, people will boil the book down to that one thing.
It's like science fiction kind of happens that way too. The minute you put, like, if you had a book and you put people going to space in it, I wonder if it would have the same problem. Maybe not, but it wouldn't be categorized the same, though, I don't think, because romance is so closely associated with women that I don't think it would be dismissed quite the same way.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's like a gender bias in the way people look at it. And really, my favorite romances are in stories that are not primarily romance. Like my all-time favorite romances are like Han and Leia in Empire Strikes Back. Like, I love that. But it's not the primary story. Yep. But it's just sort of like a little surprise. And then like Lori knows one of my favorite books is Timothy Zahn's trilogy and Heir to the Empire and all of that. And that is not a romance.
The what trilogy?
Thrawn?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Heir to the Empire. Yeah, sorry. I used to read a lot of Star Wars Expanded Universe in the in-between times.
Company.
One day we're going to do an Heir to the Empire episode. One day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in.
So great.
Yeah.
And that has no romance in it, but you can see the whole Luke and Mara Jade energy starting to build. From that book, long before they eventually, spoilers, get married. Yeah. But I love that was a very influential book for me, actually, just like the adventure.
Courtship of Princess Leia.
That book is so funny.
Toyota Corolla. Another thing about the cover, though, I think one of the reasons I think it's so interesting is because there's definitely a trend in romance covers, and I think that this fits very well with that trend, but it doesn't scream romance, which is. It's just a good cover. They did a good job.
Oh, yeah, I love the way it came out.
They like skirted this interesting line, I think, which people will see when they see the cover. I think they may agree with me, they may not, but it's I don't know, it's a good cover.
Yeah, buy it so you can see the cover.
The fantasy part is also very, very present.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the font. We had different fonts initially, and I was like, I need it to be like fantasy.
I love a ghostly castle. Is that a ghostly castle?
It is a
ghostly castle.
Yeah, there are a lot of castles in this story. So.
A cool dagger.
Yeah, exactly. Daggers are in the story. So I was like, okay, it's on.
So you're selling me what I'm about to get.
Go buy the book, and then you can gaze at the cover as long as you want.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited for it to be out there.
And so official launch is Saturday?
Launch party is Saturday. The 18th.
Okay.
But it is already launched. Launch was Monday, and then we had a snowstorm, so it was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, sit inside and read your new fantasy romance.
Atmospheric.
Fantasy, YA, romance,
Fairy tale
retelling. Yes.
Yeah, my daughter made me do a promo sheet with all the trend is to put all of your tropes on there and have like little squiggly arrows that go to the book cover.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was cute.
Yeah, so I did not make that. She did.
That's good. The kids are the experts.
No,
The
totally.
Kid,
I'm
your
like,
daughter
I
with
yield to
a
you.
big job is a kid. I probably need to reorient how I'm thinking about that. Gen Z are the experts.
Yeah. It took me a while to get this book out there, but I thought of them when I wrote it because we read together a lot of fantasy. My kids and I read a lot of fantasy books when they were growing up, so I wanted to just write something for them.
I'm gonna cry.
How long would you say, start to finish, did it take you to write North?
To write the whole book, the first manuscript, it probably took me like 6 months or 8 months to write the whole
Look
thing.
at her.
Yeah, but then I redid
She's blazing
it.
like the sun.
I know.
I can't look right at her.
Your pen is on fire.
Well, that's just like what they call the messy first draft. And it is important to do that because that's another newbie writer mistake is to think that you got to get it like,
Perfect.
Nobel Prize right. And you really you need to just write garbage, just vomit garbage up and go with your imagination like you're a child. And then you go back and fix it and cut things and fix the dialogue. And sometimes I write and it's just dialogue for pages, like a script. And then I go back and I add stuff in. So that reworking was like another year.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love seeing how all this happens.
Me too.
Look at you giving away all your secrets.
I know.
Look how generous she is.
Yeah.
Now you know how to write a book, everybody. Go do it.
I was the beneficiary of that. I had a lot of really good people that I mentioned in the acknowledgments who really helped me. One of the things I struggled with the most when I first started writing was point of view. And it's probably because I started writing fan fiction and you don't have to worry about point of view in fan fiction. It's omnipotent. Everyone has their own thoughts, but it was really helpful for someone to say, hey, your point of view is changing a lot. And so yeah, I'm like sharing the secrets. So just like they were shared to me. That's a good thing.
It's for free.
For free.
That's right. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Thanks for bringing
You
us your
did give
TED
her a
Talk.
cookie, so
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Matcha cookie. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's going to go in my next book.
I like to pay people in cookies. Let's see. What else? Why was it important to you to tell this particular story?
Oh, so yeah, another great question. So I mentioned, the one thing, which is I mean, I'm an old school feminist, so it's really, I wanted to tell a story about the girl being the rescuer, the girl being the hero. That was important to me. I loved reading fantasy with my kids, but most of the books did not have characters of color in them unless they were a side character that got killed early to motivate people. So I wanted to write a girl hero and also characters of color. And then I did get lots of various inspiration from, not directly from individuals, but just from things I experienced in life and in my day job, just justice issues of like how people are treated and what poverty is like, what abuse is like, things like that. So a lot of those things, what exploitation is like, became part of the story, became part of the setup of the story. So, yeah. And just trying to tell it in a fun way. I'm a big fan of people who tell
exploitation, but make it fun.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of people who can do allegory really well. And I'm not saying I'm like that, but I love like when you read like C.S. Lewis or other people, and you're like, oh, I get what they're saying, but they're not directly saying it. So yeah.
I also really like that. Like if something's too on the nose,
Right.
you come away feeling preached at. I think, a little bit.
Heavy-handedness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good aspiration, I think, to do that, to like speak obliquely about a thing, but have people come away with very clear idea of what you're imparting.
Yeah. Like I talk about racism in the book, but it's not called racism because the lead characters are people of color. So, but it's talked about in terms of class, like how he's treated in certain settings because of his class and why he seeks out similar people. And so, hopefully people catch that.
And I think writing like that shows respect for the intelligence of your readers, too, that you can make a point without saying, here is what my point is.
Right, exactly. That was one of the writing tips I got early on, too, which is to trust your reader to get it.
Oh.
Some of them are smart. Nobody in this room.
Yeah, sometimes I would like for someone to tell me what their point is.
A 5-paragraph essay, please.
I will.
And actually, Lori inspired me on one of the plot points early in the book.
No, God.
You know this. Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, we had a.
Is it because I can recover from any injury? Or is it because I'm a
No,
princess?
no. That's me, by the way. That is a me element.
I liked that the first line of your synopsis, because like that could describe life.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can recover from almost any injury, but we're gonna have a lot of pain.
Yeah. No. I'm definitely the person where everyone is getting sick around me, and I'm fine. So that was definitely
That is true.
Story. Yeah,
That is true.
Yeah.
You're always like, no, ever since my kids got out of daycare, I haven't been sick since.
Exactly. I've had every disease. I'm fine now. Yeah. But yeah, there was some conversation about like some sort of food and whether it was ethically sourced. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And then I looked it up, these stories, and then that ended up being part of my plot. And I was like, oh, like where's food ethical? How is your food source? Even though that's not a major plot point, it just like was like a little minor setup. So it's like stuff can come at you from life just unexpectedly that you can use.
That's what that guy on that one commercial says. Life comes at you fast.
Yeah. Stuff happens and you're just like, oh, I could use that.
Is that like an insurance company? And that's why you should always carry a little notebook or have your notes app at the ready in case
Notes app at the
inspiration
ready.
strikes.
Yeah, because if you don't write it down, you're not gonna.
Oh yeah, it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So left on my list, I have, what should we look for next and where can people find you? So before we go on to that, is there anything else you want to talk about or any other questions you guys had?
Because they're all mine.
Yeah.
Anything else you want?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Your skin looks great. Drop the regimen.
Olay products?
Oh,
yeah.
Lori knows.
You can tell I've asked that question before.
Yeah. Target.
That is a hot topic. All right. So what's coming next from you? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, I'm excited about the launch and the launch party for North. I'm having a launch party this week. I do have a short story coming out in an upcoming anthology from Sisters in Crime Guppy chapter. That's going to be February 1st. It's called Drive. It's my first really kind of violent crime story, but it's still me writing, so it'll be fine.
Not gory, I bet.
You won't come away traumatized.
Yeah, exactly. It's called Gone Fishing, Crime Takes a Holiday. So it's all stories about crimes that happen on vacation.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And so I wrote a story called Drive that's in it. And I am working on a sequel to North. A lot of people have asked me that, and it is a third of the way done. So
wow.
It is coming, and I can't say anything about it because it'll be spoilers.
Okay.
Okay.
And socials?
Yeah, I'm on my website is Anne Michelle Harris. It has links to all my social. I also have a link tree, Anne Michelle Harris link tree, and I am on Threads and Instagram as Anne_Michelle_Harris 25, and I'm on everything else as Anne Michelle Harris. So anywhere else you can find me.
We'll link to those in the show notes.
Yeah.
And you'll be at the Seattle Worldcon.
I will be at Seattle Worldcon, and I am still writing for Nerds of a Feather. And I'm
You and Haley both.
yes.
Nerds of a Feather, which won the Hugo last year with
And
you
I
guys as
was
part of the
present
team.
For that was amazing.
Yeah, that's
It
so
was
much
super
fun.
Yeah.
So people should look for you to be on panels at Worldcon too. And people should think about inviting you to be a panelist at
There you go.
Worldcon.
Yeah. I'll
Because look how good she is. Look how
I love
interesting
talking.
she is.
I can talk all day.
And you've got a great voice for radio.
Oh, goodness.
Your voice is just purring in my ears in these headphones.
Where can we buy your book?
Oh, it's available pretty much everywhere. So it is at Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. It's on Kobo. It's on Apple Books. So just any of those websites you can go to. It'll be at Eagle Eye Books and Decatur also if you're in Metro Atlanta area. So, yeah.
And that's where the launch party is.
Launch parties at Eagle Eye.
If I come to the launch party and buy a hard copy, will you sign it for me?
Absolutely. There will be signings. And if you can't make the launch party, Eagle Eye will ship you an autographed copy.
Ooh. That's exciting. I want to open this little bag of goodies that you bought.
Yes. Yeah. I'm working on, I was taught that I need to do a promo box. So these are just a couple of items from the promo box.
Promo box.
Promo box, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
In the cutest bag we've ever seen.
Cutest bag we've ever seen. Oh, beautiful bookmarks.
Oh, these
They
are
have
great.
the cover art on them. And it says, I never doubt your strength.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I
from
think
the
of
book.
you, ladies.
There's a QR
girls.
code.
Yeah.
It says a different kind of fairy tale. Beautiful artwork. Walker's shortbread.
Yes. Shortbread is a big plot element.
I love shortbread. I have Walker shortbread in my house right now.
I do
love
like
it.
shortbread. It is good.
I love it. And yeah, I have a friend who they moved away, but he's Canadian, and he made shortbread for us every holiday, and I became obsessed with it, so it became part of the plot of the book.
I want to eat that on my way home, but I also don't want crumbs in my car.
And blackcurrant beauty tea.
Ooh.
Yeah. Blackcurrant is a part of the book too. So yeah, try to do.
Then this is a really good bag of stuff.
There you go.
All related to the book.
All related to the book.
Nailed it.
To have while you're reading.
And we like tea and cookies and bookmarks. So thank you.
Oh, this is where you can do both of these things while you read the book, the tea, and I see what's happening here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
the
a
promo box
cozy
has a
gift
mug
box.
in it.
I love it.
So, but yeah.
It is very cozy.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, guys?
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming. This is
Thank you
great.
so
Thanks for
much.
having. Good luck with your
So
book.
much fun. Yay! Thanks.
All right. We will see you for the launch at Eagle Eye Books next
All right.
week.
Sounds good.
Bye.
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 Hugo girl. Hugo girl. Hugo girl. A hilarious podcast.
On the way here, I was listening to some crime, and the guy was running us through the how the sausage is made on his podcast, and he was like, "We need some room tone," and they were out in a parking lot in the world. I was like, "I guess it's just always called room tone."
Lot
That's kind
tone.
of fun. I thought it was just because we were in a room.
That makes sense.
I still don't 100% understand it.
It's not our business.
Yeah, right.
I don't want
of our business.
Just make it so.